Methodical. Saving $10,000 by cutting out your daily coffee is like trying to empty a rapidly sinking ship using a tiny teacup. If you've ever tried the extreme budgeting route, the rice and beans, canceling subscriptions you actually enjoy, you know it makes you miserable. It rarely moves the financial needle, which is why most people quit within a month. To find the real money, we must apply the Pareto principle directly to your bank account. In most systems, roughly 80% of the outcome is driven by just 20% of the inputs. For personal spending, the vast majority of the money leaking out every month isn't coming from dozens of scattered small purchases. This pie chart illustrates recent Bureau of Labor Statistics data, showing exactly where the leaks are. Housing accounts for 33% of average spending, and transportation consumes 17%. Half of everything spent is concentrated in just two categories. Optimizing these two structural categories makes up to $9,600 a year in recovered cash available. Building wealth relies on strategic, high-value structural changes rather than forcing yourself into a cycle of daily deprivation. We have to start with housing. According to Harvard data, 40% of U.S. renters now pay more than 30% of their gross income on housing. That is 4 in 10 people exceeding a guideline that was never meant to be crossed. The reason this goes unchecked for years is psychological. Where you live gets tangled up with status and comfort. People treat housing as an immovable identity marker, but underneath, your housing situation is just a mathematical ratio being compared against your income. Picture a solo one-bedroom apartment for $1,650 a month. Compare that to a $2,000 two-bedroom apartment split evenly with a roommate. Your share drops to $1,000. That single shift creates a massive $650 monthly recovery, or $7,800 a year. While sharing this space is a lifestyle adjustment, the sheer scale of the financial return often outweighs the impact of dozens of smaller sacrifices combined. If your job allows remote or hybrid work, you have an alternative lever: geographic arbitrage. Relocating from a high-cost metro area to a mid-sized city can compress your housing costs by 30 to 50%, all while you maintain the exact same salary. This brings the running total for recovered cash flow to $650 a month, or $7,800 a year. Separating personal identity from housing choices is the most direct way to reclaim massive capital that was otherwise trapped in concrete and drywall. The true monthly cost of an average new car routinely exceeds $1,000, a $735 payment, $150 for insurance, and $200 for gas. But swapping a $40,000 financed vehicle for a reliable $20,000 alternative immediately recovers $300 to $500 a month. People often hesitate here, worrying a used car might break down. But a well-maintained, properly inspected used car is a calculated, modest risk that is highly preferable to the guaranteed, inescapable financial anchor of a 7-year auto loan that never adjusts, even if your income drops. To make this work, you have to avoid the dealership financing trap. Dealerships are specifically designed to create emotional attachment to a car before the financing conversation even begins. Secure your own financing through a bank or credit union before you ever step foot on a lot. There is a secondary lever here too. Take 20 minutes every renewal period to shop your auto insurance and bundle your home, auto, and internet under one provider. Competing insurers frequently offer 5 to 15% discounts to win your business. When we factor in these vehicle and insurance optimizations, the running total for recovered cash flow increases by an average of $400 a month. Treating a vehicle strictly as a depreciating utility rather than a daily status symbol defends your long-term wealth against quiet, compounding erosion. Left unmonitored, time quietly works against you. Months easily turn into years, while expensive financial defaults silently drain your stagnant bank account. Behavioral economists call this status quo bias. We tolerate expensive housing situations and bad car loans simply because the original choice is familiar. Leaving things exactly as they are feels easier than admitting the original decision was flawed and taking the effort to fix it. You break this cycle with an annual reset. Pick one memorable date every single year, a birthday or the first week of January, and treat it as a non-negotiable financial appointment with yourself. During this appointment, you only need to answer 2 questions. Is my current housing situation still the most efficient one available to me? And is my current vehicle and insurance setup still the best deal I could reasonably get? Setting this simple annual habit creates a permanent psychological inoculation. You sever the automatic drain of complacency by forcing yourself to look at the math. The final tally of this structural audit shows that between $600 and $800 in monthly cash flow has been recovered. Over a year, that is $7,200 to $9,600. This nearly $10,000 recovery was achieved entirely behind the scenes. We didn't cut a single meal out, and we didn't force you to drop a single streaming service you actually enjoy. With the heavy structural lifting complete, we are sitting just shy of our $10,000 target. In Part 2, we will optimize the smaller defaults, your food and your subscriptions, to close the remaining gap.
Let's pick up exactly where that math left off. While the first two categories we tackled were about your life infrastructure, these final two are entirely about behavioral psychology. We've already lopped in significant monthly savings from restructuring housing and transportation. Now we address the remaining leaks. The obstacle here isn't the cost of living, it is the fact that corporate America has spent billions engineering apps to completely strip away the natural friction of spending money. Recovering the remaining $3,500 we need to hit our goal requires intentionally putting that friction back into your routine, rather than relying on aggressive budgeting. Success depends on structural protection for your brain, rather than the stamina of your willpower. This chart plots a clear behavioral shift since 1997. While grocery spending has grown at a slow 4% annually, delivery app spending has spiked 924%. Because of this, the average household now spends between $320 and $390 a month on dining and delivery. Ordering expensive food at 7 p.m. is a predictable outcome of decision fatigue. This is the psychological reality that the quality of our choices deteriorates the more decisions we are forced to make in a single day. By the time you finish working and commuting, your exhausted brain defaults to the absolute easiest option available. Delivery apps weaponize this state by collapsing the gap between "I'm hungry" and "food is coming" into a 3-second action. To counter this, decide exactly which 2 nights are your eating out nights at the very beginning of the week. Moving the decision to a time when your mental bandwidth is high reinstates the 72-hour impulse rule. You build a natural break into your schedule instead of negotiating with yourself when you are tired. You do not have to eliminate delivery. Simply cutting the frequency in half saves roughly $158 a month, adding $1,900 a year to our running total. Regaining control of your food spending requires abandoning in-the-moment willpower entirely and relying strictly on preemptive, low-fatigue planning. Look at this data from C+R research. When consumers guess their monthly subscription spending, the average estimate is $86. The reality of their actual bank statements pulses at $219. This massive blind spot exists because of the pain of paying. Modern subscriptions are intentionally designed to neutralize the natural psychological friction you feel when physically handing over cash. They hide the total cost through structural traps. Annual billing makes the price feel smaller, split credit cards prevent you from seeing the combined damage, and frictionless autopay removes the moment of noticing. Here is the 15-minute fix. Pull statements from the last 2 months and force every recurring charge into 3 buckets: essential, nice to have, and forgotten. Cancel everything in that 3rd bucket immediately. For most households, these unused services drain an invisible $60 to $100 a month. Next, scan your surviving essential and nice to have buckets. Consolidate overlapping individual accounts, like streaming or cloud storage, into shared family plans. Canceling forgotten subscriptions is the closest thing to free money. You achieve it simply by forcing automated, invisible spending back into the harsh light of a single spreadsheet. Let's put the complete picture together, using the conservative estimates from every category we've covered. We secure $300 from housing, $300 from transportation, $158 from food, and $65 from subscriptions. Multiply that monthly total by 12, and we confirm exactly $9,876 a year, officially landing on the $10,000 promise. But saving the money is only the starting point. The actual goal is long-term wealth generation. This graph illustrates the compounding math. If you redirect that $823 a month into a low-cost index fund, averaging a 7% return, The balance sweeps past $140,000 in 10 years and accelerates past $400,000 over a 20-year timeline. This $10,000 a year target serves as the recurring fuel for that multi-$100,000 reality. Before you act, you must avoid a major failure point. Do not attempt to overhaul all 4 of these categories in a single high-pressure weekend. This timeline outlines the exact pacing strategy. Execute the fast wins, food and subscriptions, today. Save the slower conversational wins of housing and transportation for the coming months. If your primary objection is that you have already optimized your spending, be aware of status quo bias. We often anchor to the effort we put in years ago, rather than evaluating our current realities. If this feels like too much change at once, recognize that a partial victory on just one category is vastly superior to a perfect, comprehensive plan that never gets executed. While individual numbers will vary, the method of auditing structural spending defaults remains effective across different income levels. The Pareto principle holds true in budgeting. A tiny handful of decisions account for almost the entire financial result. Housing and cars are not untouchable. Daily food and tiny subscriptions are not too small to matter. Pick exactly one category from the 4 we covered and take the required action today. Not tomorrow, today. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment stating exactly which of the 4 categories you are tackling first. The version of you sitting on a $400,000 investment portfolio starts with the decision to act on these leaks while they are still small and silent.